All right. We are here today. Like I said, we will be consistent. So before we get started, I definitely want to make it clear what we're here to do today. Today, we have to enlighten those of you who are in the coaching world, training in the boxing world, or combat world. Doesn't matter. These are the things that you have to know. Go amongst the things that are in your line items, which is your checklist. So, but before we get started, we must say and send gratitude to our sponsors, which make these type things happen. The equipment that's used to do it, and the sound that we have, the lighting, and all of the things to benefit your experience here and give you that professional feel is Jab Juice, branding wizards. For those of you in the combat world who have to really make your name brand present and really understand what it takes to really catapult what you're doing, that's what Jab Juice is all about, because there's just not enough juice behind most of us who are coming out here who really do get an opportunity to get the shine. So with that being said, Jab Juice makes sure that you understand bringing the fiber of your brand and letting people know what you are, not only who you are. Keeping you very authentic is the key. So Jab Juice is just, special shouts out to Jab Juice, which I'm a humongous part of that entity. And I'm proud to say that what we're doing for the training business, the game of boxing across the board it's 1000% relevant, because us coaches, we worked and we train, and it is a real tough task. We don't have time to focus on building our brand. We're too busy working. So we knew that we had to come to the rescue of guys. And so for that, special shouts out to Jab Juice. But right now, we're going to get into some very, very in-depth conversations on running a top-notch program. And what exactly will that entail? Okay, the first thing that you will note is we got people popping in already. And we are definitely, everything is good, Raymond. It's good to see you, brother. All good, man. Love the Sox hat, even though I'm a Yankees guy. Love everything you share about the art of boxing. South Carolina in the house. Yes, Gerald Whitaker from South Carolina, the dirty South. Now, as we get into it, our biggest thing is to make sure that this list that I'm about to give you all, and if you are out here on the training game, in the training group game, this list will give you all of these things that are required. If you don't have the benefit of generational wealth and knowledge, you don't have as many tools to learn from. So that's why we are here, to save you from that situation. And the checklist is a lot of things that we are overlooked, because what your job is so tough that, people really don't understand what goes into this. But when it's all said and done, we got you covered. And the first thing that I'm going to share with you is I'm going to need to take 1 second and put a visual up of some good work while I do this. Hold on 1 second. Perfect. I had to get this light off of my face. Now, first thing that you guys will need in this order of it, in this order of what is required, and I'm gonna break it down and go bullet point style. This is what makes it really relevant. You'll need to know the theory on the fundamentals. See, the theory of your fundamental training does not, you can't escape understanding the why you do what you do. You can't escape that. some of you want to get these clips and use them and think you've gotten the skill. I've gotten compliments, and one of the most painful things, and it's only hurtful because I understand what goes behind looking at a technique and then just using it with no under. If it's something you didn't know, you can't understand theory. You can make assumptions and you can just assume, but with everything comes a line item of do's and don'ts. And so therefore you must understand theory of these basic fundamental skills. And we're talking things like footwork and postures. Whereas you see people who think that the only style of boxing is classic boxing. And if they don't see you doing that, they typically assume that you're doing it wrong. Where when you understand the foundation of boxing, there are different postures: high, low, mid, cross arm, cross bar. You can't grade where a man's hands are as long as his eyes is on the prize. Plenty of guys get knocked out with their hands by their face. That's irrelevant. So don't get fooled by the smoke and mirrors. That's just like saying if you have a seatbelt on, you'll survive any crash. That's not true. And neither is one style of boxing. So let's make sure we pay attention to that. Understanding theory. So if you're taking anything off of this timeline and you really work with fighters and you have not even had conversations about it, because every technique, man, comes with a book of do's and don'ts. So knowing theory and concept. Next thing you will be faced with is offense and training for a boxer. This can be found, all of these things have to be in a place that you can really dedicate yourself to learning. And so it's a powerful thing. The next requirements here will be boxing requires excessive macro and micronutrients due to the physical output, mental and psychological output. We have coaches who will send their fighters home. They might give suggestions, but what you need is a panel, because nutrients is a drug if consumed wrong. So if your fighter's losing a lot of sweat and a lot of salts, which is your sodium levels, and lacking sugars, and when he putting back, he's losing density in his muscles and bone, and all he's doing is going home and eating McDonald's and Chick-fil-A, or malnutrition by basically eating salads and really not getting the micro and macro. You must understand you are being his worst enemy. You're his worst opponent. And for that, we gotta fix these type things. I myself took nutrition. First, I lived it for 10 years. And then I realized, even with my experience, there's more that I need to know for the base and foundation of it. And so therefore, I got certified in nutrition. And there are just levels to that. But with I'm on my fourth. See, I've been around the medical field. So since 92 or 3. So that's almost going into decade 4. Like I'm turning the corner on decade 4 in like a year and something. So I'll be turning into that 4th decade of just being conscious of that, and then going to get experience and then getting really educated. You got to have these guys right. Or if they're consuming things that will not benefit them in the long haul, that youth can only sustain so long. And so you got to have this thing in check. And I talk about it with my athletes. When I was working in the battlefield of boxing, my fighters stayed in a range of their weight that they had to weigh in so they could train strong and fight stronger. With that, you must understand systematically, individually, I had to do specific assessments. All of these sheets and things are listed in our online program, Top Trainer U, which is on Facebook. You see it as a group called the School of Boxing. That being said, it's the Institute of Higher Learning. We are not just telling our guys to go home and eat chicken and a salad. You got to know what this dude is doing regimen wise, and it's just like prescribing a drug. So these are the things that got to be checked off the list. They're not a luxury to act like they don't exist. I hope you're staying with me and give me responses if you are, that you understand that how important this stuff is. And the next one is the next thing you will need a minimal of 3 coaches. One coach will need 3. There's coaches, trainers, and then there's the coach, one guy who they're all feeding behind and learning how this operation works, because you might have an iPhone, but you don't know how to run Apple. You might be at the gym, but you don't know how to run the operation. You got certified and now you're a trainer. Does that mean you understand the game of combat? No. You only have license to learn now. You have license to get into the game and make it what you may. Just like license to drive a car. Doesn't mean you know how to do it yet. It means you have license to really get out there and get practiced up, muscle memory. Your permit does not give you access to be Richard Petty, all right? Or Dale Earnhardt. Next thing, and the reason why, because you're going to need multiple sets of eyes, one in the training world, the nutrition world, and the second set of eyes to watch things happen technically. Now, this is when you just entering. This isn't when you get moving up, when you start getting into tournaments and stuff. Like, you need more than that. But these conversations will be had in the School of Boxing the first of the week. No, matter of fact, actually Thursday. And the conversation, in order to get into that conversation, if you know you need that conversation, is to go up here to the registration, register to be in that course so you can learn how to go and operate at this part with this sanctor and this thing, because it's powerful for the ones that have been a part of it, and they know what I'm saying is Bible. It's the ones that have gotten a little certification, and it's kind of confusing that they don't have an all-in-all manual that teaches you everything that you're going to need to know or care to be a part of. And we don't want that for you guys. I've been out there. I've been that guy who's lost, and I had mentorship, and I'm 3rd generation. So imagine how tough it could be for someone who's just getting in, and maybe they did some boxing young, but man, boxing is the stingiest sport in the world. People keep their knowledge to self, and it's hard to crack the code, okay, unless they need something from you. And that's why you got to develop and be in a place where you're learning these things. The next thing that you're going to have to realize is that when you're concentrating in an area, so focused on an area with the athletes, you have to really hone in on their sparring. So now you're missing out on their base stuff, because you only can hold so much stuff in your mind. Sooner or later, those cracks start to come into your armor, chinks in your armor. In boxing, I used to warn everybody who came into the boxing gym, when they sign their waiver, remember this: if you have any holes in your game, I would not suggest you get in there and spar, because we are purists, meaning we do it from the book. And when we can execute, we execute like savages. It's not a threat. It's just basically letting them know that we're not who you want to practice with. We're where you really want to say, we're done. We ready. We ready to give y'all some work. But if you came in there to test where you guys are, that's where you will really get smoked. And that has happened time and time again for decades. And I always gave people the warning after years. I said, I got to warn people that this is not the institute that you come into to learn. This is the institute that you come in when you know what you're doing. And don't assume, because we go and got a checklist, and our checklist is from 130 years of lineage. And just so it's clear to you, we have produced most champions ever. I don't care if you're from Argentina, Hong Kong. It's only 3 giants and 3 heads on Mount Rushmore as coaches. And we're from one of those lineages and had dealings with the other. So the depths of that lineage, all that information is in that briefcase for you. And so learning these things that matter most, we want to make sure that you guys are equipped, because we want the state of boxing in a much better place. The next thing that you'll need to know is you will need the proper athlete assessments, the system. You'll have to have this thing checked. Why? Because athletes pull the wool over your eyes, especially the athletic ones who are great at front running, measuring your guys when you got 5 or more fighters and thinking everybody's really where they need to be, but missing out on the little things. You got to have that in place. And I know this is starting to seem overwhelming, but when you come into an institute of boxing, it's different than you being a guy and just boxing and taking a couple of guys to fights and fighting little local matches and things like that. We prepare you for the elitists of levels. I'm trying to say, you're going to the Pan Ams, you're going to the Olympics, you're going to the nationals. Like, that's what we groom our fighters for. Now, everybody's not going to be a world champion or a gold medalist. Everybody's not. But I told you before, what you're being a part of and donating to is something much larger than that. Okay, but you don't want to come short. And as the trainer, it's your responsibility to have these things and these these boxes checked. Excuse me, my French. So these things are powerful to have. Your athlete assessments system is powerful. And then in that checklist, there are like a bevy of, like, I don't know, maybe 40 characters, 40 different slots that you want to have checked. And that's how you can do it if you haven't really been able to hone in on one person because you have so many people. What you can do now is check the boxes with them. Take 5 minutes, go through this process, and with that, that'll help you really get a read on them. They can't fool you, all right? Especially when you have all of the things. And I did grading. My grading system was great, and it really, sometimes fighters got upset. Sometimes fighters got what we call in-house suspension, and then some got outed suspensions, because when I did the assessments, they didn't reach the criteria, but my eyes couldn't tell. All right. So what you're teaching them as athletes is be responsible, and you will be held responsible. And especially if you're at master boxing, this is where you get your master's degree in boxing. We can't take shorts, because if you short here, you're going to short somewhere else, and then you'll start develop muscle memory for shorting things. The next category is understanding this: the assessment of your cardiovascular examination by understanding how to gather the athlete's VO2 max. This is all required. I've worked with NFL athletes, professional fighters, professional UFC fighters. I've worked with so many different sports, track. I used to work right in the same vicinity with the people like the Marion Jones and the Justin Gatlins of the world, Sean Crawfords and Melissa Barbers. All these people were gold medal Olympians in 1 year. And Justin went on to do it a multitude of times over and even beat Usain Bolt on several occasions. So you're talking about the fastest men in the world, meaning they are not like human beings. These people are like absolute machines. And so we knew that the science behind VO2, it's a powerful thing. Just so you know, regular people walk around at probably 32 liters pumping, a regular guy, average workout, so on and so forth. And then more supreme being an athletic guy, you're talking about 38 liters to 42 liters of blood. But when you're talking about people who are like the GOAT, like Michael Jordan, you're talking about his heart could pump 52 liters of blood in a minute. All right. So understanding what VO2 max is a real thing. Lance Armstrong on the record, 92 liters of blood per minute. So when you talk about boxing and getting your fighter prepared, but all you're talking about is throwing mitts and having them on the heavy bag and spar, where muscle systems, cardiovascular systems are really in place. You can't fight a guy like Errol Spence. You can't fight a guy like Bud Crawford. You don't understand sports science. So all of these things are measured in Top Trainer U, the School of Boxing. This material is all available there because you don't have this as a checklist. USA Boxing is not giving you all of this stuff. All right. So that's why it exists here. But they're great. The thing about it is, when you're talking about training competitive athletes at the highest level and you're trying to be a coach who's wanting to be in the place where you are celebrated because you are doing things that you have the edge on everybody else, I love feeling that because I know when I go into anywhere, when I start working and training with people, they know that I'm the highest level. It doesn't take much if you got two eyes in your head. And so the knowledge that I possess, these are the things that I put into our institute. So you all can really have this at your disposal. The next thing you will need is to know the muscle systems to measure the strength. And most of you think that's about doing weight training and calisthenics. No, it's about understanding the dexterity of the body. Your fighter has a muscle ratio, all right, of the body that has to be. You can be too dense, and all that happens is the oxygen gets sucked out if you play around those parameters in a wrong way, the wrong way. Canelo's experienced it. Then they start getting more experienced people around them. You look at, I remember Daniel Jacobs. There are a lot of guys who figured it out. Baby Hopkins did it. All it took is one fight to go in there wrong, because you get these new trainers and they train you like you're an actual just a dude going into the gym. Anthony Joshua, you can be trained wrong because a guy's an expert in a field. That does not mean he's an expert in the sport. Muscle to oxygen ratio is a real thing. And so you'll understand how to do that through the muscle systems that we do. But these things have to be in place because you're not going to get to the elitist of levels. You can luckily get very far, if you have a real dynamo in your camp, but you'll get shut down because you're going to need to have late round antics to deliver a fight that is going to be competitive. It's a powerful thing. This will assure you that the dexterity of your fighter is of a true athlete. You develop the athlete. If he comes in there athletic and you're not really messing with any of that because you don't really know about oxygen systems, VO2s, and muscle systems, you're just doing it because you just doing it, then that's gonna be a problem. You get what I'm saying? You won't be able to escape that. You will see things get turned around for you like that. So be careful. Make sure you keep these notes front and center. And once again, this is what you learn how to do when you're in a very deep lineage. Fortunately, I knew what to look out for because I've been an expert in the training world, not coaching, but training world. I've been an expert in the coaching world, and I've been an expert in nutrition. Now, not the highest level, but the 3.5 decades in nutrition alone took me to a level that very few people exist in. And I don't care about anything. So my nutrition book was co-signed by a dietitian from UNC. And you know, UNC is one of the highest institutes and colleges in the USA, bar none, you know. So make sure that you realize when you have young athletes who are having to grow and develop their bone density, the dexterity of their muscles, there's a ratio, there's a method, there's a system of working with those guys. You must know it or learn it so that you can apply these things and it's applicable. Because if not, that's what happens to these guys when they eventually will get exposed. The next thing you'll need to have understanding of the program mediums as a trainer. Many unsupported trainers lack the details of how to take an athlete from simply active to Olympic level, which is elite, period. Um, it's not a word because some of you get used to hearing it. It's a level. Elite is not a word. It doesn't describe something. It's a level. Like when you walk into a house and they have shelves. There's a shelf in the middle, there's a shelf on the bottom, and then there's a shelf at the highest level. It's the exact same thing with this knowledge. Even great athletes will fall to another less talented fighter, period. If that supreme level athlete is not groomed to be elite, a less talented fighter who's elite is most likely to beat a very athletic supreme athlete, hands down, because program mediums come into play. These important attributes of your fighter, which will make your fighter better. All right. These are the attributes of your fighter. So the methods of training, that's why you see so many different types of drills on our page. You see a lot of little bits and pieces, but you don't understand theory, concept. And when you do those things, you'll see them in a book. Everything that we do is in book format, and then in video format, and then in tutorial format, and then in practical, and then in clinic format. So you're being educated, and so you're going in there like Mackie Shieldstone. You're learning the game and the science of boxing on an entire level. So when we mention the word top trainer you, we're not just speaking of a very cool name. We're talking about the highest level of education for the training world in boxing, period. There is just not another level unless aliens start coming down like ET and doing magic. This is the highest level. So understand that the checklist is nothing short of exquisite. And we hope that you take the time to double down and say, I need to level up. Put that in the comment box. Make sure that you Hashtag I need to level up, and we will definitely aid you guys because all of this material is in Top Trainer U, and there are levels in there. You get up there and you start getting serious because you're definitely going to have to check the boxes. Going through a program and doing a lot of stuff does not mean you understand the system in which you're working in. It doesn't make it a system. It just makes it like gumbo. You got a lot of different stuff in it, but it's not the way it's supposed to be. Just because I throw a lot of metal and shape it like a rocket does not mean it's a rocket. And we don't want that going on because those guys are getting exposed. Those guys are getting really hurt. And in the school of boxing, it's all about educating you not to get hurt. We teach the purest science of boxing, which is hit and not get hit, or hit and not get hurt. All right, because you learn how to roll, posture change, all these different levels. Like you learn it all. And these guys, when you're watching it, if you're from the school of boxing, double down on it because these other coaches need to understand the level that they're operating in only in their eyes is elite. But we have a grading checklist for coaches that if you want to measure up what level you really are teaching at, let's do the checklist and it'll tell you. And I guarantee you're not going to score over 60. That's facts because you're not a walking institute. Nobody is. So you have to get into institutes. So these things are powerful and hopefully this lands well on your ear. It's not an insult. It just shows you how deep boxing is and the knowledge that you got to learn. And people need to respect this game. You can't come off the street and start boxing professionally or amateur. You don't understand the language. You don't understand the things that you have to do. You have zero muscle memory. Copying videos do not position you to be an elite fighter. Fighting in the street does not, because now you got to learn an entirely different level of rules and rules with everything from physiology to understanding how to get your oxygen levels, to understanding the dexterity and the density of your body and bones, getting used to being hit. Your body has to get used to getting hit. You ain't never been hit by a dude that trains to hit people in the face and body to finish them. You ain't. Then we want to make sure we cut out all of this delusional stuff because once you get hit for real, you realize this is different. When you get in the ring and climb in, put your mouthpiece in, headgear on, grease up, you already know this is different. You don't even have to get hit, right? So for you out there, don't dream like this is a game. It's not a game because when it start coming, that guy knows so many more things than you that you don't because you got to learn these things because this is a sport. You can't just go out there and play rugby because you can run fast. Like rugby, those guys would rip your head off, break your shoulder out of place just because you're the same size as them or maybe even bigger sometimes. Doesn't mean anything. And we don't want you to get hurt because you're going to get hurt. That's facts. So please don't give me pushback on that because we can always set you up to get in a gym, sign a waiver, and get the reality check. And that's what some of you who feel like you see it, you can do it. You think you can just beat up Errol Spence because you weigh 147. It's not the case. These guys are different, period. So you would need to have the proper understanding of what the program mediums is all about because these things take you to the next level. All right. Another thing, period. If it hasn't dawned on you yet, in order to become a specialist at what you're doing in the sport of boxing, properly educated is one of the things that's required. You must be properly educated. And that's what we do here at the Top Trainer University is make sure that you all are in the position that you're going to learn this. And when you're learning this, you can teach your kids, you can teach your neighbors' kids, you can teach your little cousins, anybody that you're a guardian over, female or male, can learn boxing in a systematic way. And like I said earlier, a person that's a lesser athlete and least talented, groomed properly, can be a supreme athlete, period. Because this is a system. That's what happens with a system, not because you are stronger than the other person, but we can put a better, more talented physical fighter in there, break them down. That's what a system does. A lot of you might get a guy walking into the gym and he's got this dynamo stuff like Pacquiao and Tyson, and you beat some guys and you think it's your coaching, but it's not. Once you put him in there against an Evander Holyfield, you're going to get exposed. It's all about that day is coming. So learn the Institute of Higher Learning. Make sure you have all the right stuff. So keep in mind that type in the comments, I want to level up. That's all you got to do. Or just go up to the website and just leave a message, because tomorrow we have another great conversation, but we definitely want to make sure that we are talking to the people who are training and working with people. We had several coaches yesterday, one athlete who was competing, and you got to know that you can't be doing this thing on your own. Forget about it. If you're a coach, you need 3 coaches around you. That's at the lower levels, and that's when you are at the beginning of your career. When you move up, because you need eyes around you, because you cannot catch everything. I used to get frustrated when the older coaches was coming up to me and talking and saying things, and then I was picking up on things. And the bottom line is there's no one coach. I don't care if it's Angelo Dundee, Custy Amato, Emmanuel Stewart, all these guys, rest in peace. They'll tell you you can't coach by yourself. That's crazy. And so in the Institute, the beautiful coaches all have each other's back. When you post, you see things that you can do and improve on. There's never going to be a video up that go up or a demonstration that does not need correcting, because boxing, you're always wrong. Always. You're always wrong in boxing. Wrap your head around that. And I'm talking Errol Spence, Sean Crawford. I mean, not Sean Crawford, but guys like Porter, guys like Bud Crawford. They're wrong too. They'll tell you, yeah, but I fix it and I can adjust and I can adapt. They don't make me pay for my mistakes. But coaches need seconds and third sets of eyes. That's why you miss things. You start watching the guy hands, you start missing his feet. And when you start watching his feet, you start missing his hands and his angles and his turns. And so you got to. And if you don't, you're going to get caught out there on a hook and reeled in. That's facts. That's what's going to happen. Not, I'm assuming it. So make sure you stay tuned tomorrow, because we will be talking about the benefits of using our training guide in tournament training competitions. Having that thing, there's specific, the tournament guide. It's not the one we train and use daily, but the tournament guide has a sizzle in there, explains and breaks everything down in tournament and competitions. So stay tuned for that if you want to know what that entails. And I'm looking forward to it. For those of you who are looking to be involved in that feed that we're talking about, all of the program mediums and the process of building up that program and learning how to actually do it when you're dealing with your competitors and building that program up, we're going to give you the details. Make sure you just write down in the comment box, I want to register to be a part of it, because we can't do it here, because we can't go in depth. We only do 30-minute show, and I'm already past that. But with that being said, it's just so much to cover. But we take the time to do this, and it's our job to make sure, whether you are a parent or you're working with Canelo Alvarez, that you have what it takes to get yourself to the next level. That's what this is all about. And that's all I got for right now. So special shouts out to my brother in the School of Boxing. Be sure to leave comments. We answered all of them yesterday. We will do the exact same thing today, because what you're thinking and what you're needing matters to us. That's all I got. I'll see you next time in the winner's circle. And to my brothers from the School of Boxing, I salute you for taking your game and understanding the system of boxing. So long, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll be on those comments a little bit later.